Ooh, what's up, Internet? My name's Nerdy, and I have seen James Bond No Time to Die, but the question is, should you? I'll have your answer right after this. That is right. The final installment in Daniel Craig's run as the titular James Bond 007 has finally arrived stateside here in North America. I finally got to see it. I know that it's been out for a bit overseas and that people have been enjoying it and spending their money on it. This thing is just releasing here in North America and it has already made a little over $120 million, coming in at almost half of its budget before it opens in the very large and very important North American markets. Although it is important to note that James Bond is a very international character, and this is one of those films, kind of like the Fast and the Furious franchise, where the international market might end up being more important than the domestic. Although having seen the movie, I think this movie's going to do rather well here. I want to start off at the beginning by saying that I am a huge Bond fan. This character was very important to me growing up. It's probably my father's favorite character, and so watching these movies with him was a lot of how I grew up. We would spend a lot of our time when I was at his house, child of divorce. That's the life, right? Watching Bonds and watching old westerns. And so I just have this very deep nostalgic love for this character that's really continued because of the Daniel Craig era. I think that the Pierce Brosnan films, while fun, definitely were a step back for me in my Bond fandom. Helped a little bit along by the video games. I think the video games were better than the movies ended up being. And my love for GoldenEye on the N64 is pretty massive. But the Daniel Craig films have been pretty solid for the most part. I think there's definitely parts of Quantum of Solace and of Spectre, the second and fourth film in his run, that are not as strong and make those movies not as enjoyable for me personally. But I think that Casino Royale and Skyfall are both just top Bond movies. And I've been really looking forward to finally seeing this final iteration from Daniel Craig ever since they rebooted the character with him back in, I think, 2006 now, right? It's been so long. It's like half my life. This movie opens with Bond retired. We've been hearing about that. There has been concern about the concept of Lashana Lynch coming in as the new 007. And I will say, if you're a big Bond fan, nothing to worry about here. The way they handle the pass off is really within the world. It totally makes sense. And the bringing Bond back out of retirement is a very fun and very plot necessary thing to happen once you see it. I will throw some spoilers at the very end of this review, but we're going to try and go no spoilers until then. I thought the interplay between Bond and between Lashana Lynch's Nomi and her anxiety about this resurgence of Bond within MI6 and within her life, as she has been, I think, just like starting out on the path to really coming into her own as a 00 and making it her number. It's a really noticeable choice that they make with that character. And I think that Lashana Lynch played it really well and entered the franchise in a way that if they wanted to move forward with her as the lead of the next film, I would totally be down for that. I think there is there is going to be another James Bond at some point. But I will say, I think that this was a really fantastic end to Daniel Craig's tenure as the character. And if they wanted to take 10 years away from James Bond, make a couple movies with Nomi, and then reboot the franchise in the 2030s, which is weird to say. But if they want to do that, I would not be too disappointed. I do think that this was a really solid send-off, and the way they handled the send-off of Daniel Craig's years as James Bond was beautiful and emotional and well written. And so I do think that we could take a little bit more time before we recast James Bond, but have another movie come out in this franchise and just follow this cast of characters that we've built around Daniel Craig as they move on into a world without a James Bond, and what that looks like and what that would mean for Nomi and Moneypenny and M and Q and Tanner and the cast of MI6 that they have in this franchise, which has been very strong since Casino Royale and has just kind of continued like that. I think they also did a really wonderful job bringing in Anna de Armas as the new American agent counterpoint to Bond. Felix Leiter brings her into his world. Felix Leiter, excellent in this movie. A very fond farewell to the character that Jeffrey Wright has been playing in this franchise ever since Casino Royale. Felix Leiter, a longtime Bond character, but really great casting bringing him in with Jeffrey Wright here. Same with Ana de Armas's character, whose name I don't actually know. Is it on here? Paloma. She was fantastic. She's only in it for the one scene, for the one sequence, and I loved her. Ana de Armas brought it in this movie with a totally different energy than she usually has in her films. I think that she was playing this sort of shy confidence that I really, really enjoyed, and I was kind of hoping she would factor somehow into later parts of the movie, and she doesn't. And so she has this really wonderful moment that built this new character that I'm like, I want Nomi, the Lashana Lynch character, to have her 007 moment and have Paloma come back as sort of the Felix Leiter to Nomi. I think that would be a really wonderful pairing that they could do if they wanted to do a franchise move like that and spin off these movies into a female-led, Lashana Lynch-led 007 franchise. I think they could do it. I think you could call a movie 007. James Bond doesn't have to be in it. Talk about him. Have his funeral be a part of the movie so that like you're calling back to it. But Lashana Lynch is more than capable of carrying this franchise into the future. I spoke about the writing, and I really do want to talk about it because the writing of this movie is very different from the other Daniel Craig Bond movies. When we started with Casino Royale, we got the full 180 from the Pierce Brosnan, right? Pierce Brosnan was funny. He was gadget heavy. There was a lot of near magic levels of gadgetry. And the Casino Royale movie, he has a defibrillator and he has electricity essentially. And we've been getting more and more of the gadgets throughout the Daniel Craig Bond films. But this movie really brought the comedy back from previous Bond films, but it did it in a way that was really subtle and really written to the moment and to a character that is very changed from Casino Royale. And I think that was a lot of fun. A lot of the comedy in this movie came from a Bond who's just kind of over it. He's seen it. He's a little over the hill. And so he had a very, very sarcastic kind of dry humor throughout the film. Some really, really solid one-liners that got chuckles out of the audience. And so this movie had a lot of humor to it. I don't know if that's because Phoebe Waller-Bridge was one of the people brought in to work on the script alongside director Cary Fukunaga. But the humor in this movie was actually really well handled and quite nice and sincere. And I really respected that. I didn't expect to be having as much of a like fun time as I was in some of these sequences, but there was a lot of heart and joy alongside a movie that is dark and difficult because of Rami Malek's character. His name is Lucifer. I want to bring up that it is spelled Lyutsifer. Lucifer. We get it. He's the devil. But Lucifer is the new villain to replace Blofeld as the big bad of the Bond franchise as we head into Daniel Craig's last bout here. And he is connected to, in ways that you find out throughout the film, that you find out early on, but Bond finds out throughout the film. Léa Seydoux' character of Madeleine Swan, Bond's love interest, who he has truly fallen in love with and retired for. And their relationship is very important to the center of the movie. I can't say more about it without spoiling anything, but the scenes between the two of them are fantastic. And the scenes between Rami Malek and Bond at the end of the movie are really wonderful because of how well Léa Seydoux and Rami Malek build up the relationship between those characters to the end of that film and to those final climactic moments. I think there's a lot of payoff here. I will say the one thing about this movie that was a little... The one negative, I think, in a movie that I really, really enjoyed was the big plan, like the big bad plan that Rami Malek's character has is a little... It's not great. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So much so that there's a conversation where M and Bond essentially are like, what do you think his plan is? And Bond is like, the same old. And M's like, okay, same old. And they walk away from the conversation like, well, that's all we're going to put into that. And it's very MacGuffin heavy. And the reason for the MacGuffin isn't great, but the conversations between characters and the relationships that they have with each other and the changes in the relationships with each other because of the MacGuffin are pretty great. And so overall, I think the movie was quite fantastic, honestly, and overcomes the plot being a little weak by having the relationships between the characters be so strong and so well written, and by having, in my opinion, probably some of the best dialogue since Casino Royale in a Bond film. And I think that this is also, despite maybe not being my favorite Daniel Craig Bond plot, this is my favorite Daniel Craig Bond performance for sure. I think that he brings a lot of gravitas to the role in this fifth and final bout. I think that he brings something extra that hasn't been there before, and it's noticeable. He has some longer dialogue sequences in this than I think we've had in previous Bond films. I think they've kept him rather curt, rather sly and smart. In this, he has some rather emotional monologues that that Daniel Craig delivers with just such clarity and such focus in a way that I really, really was taken aback by. I mean, we've always been taken aback by those baby blues he's got, right? Those eyes. Daniel Craig's eyes are ridiculous, and that is definitely in this movie as well. But the very, very noticeable attention to the emotional life of James Bond in this film, as we say goodbye to this Bond, who, this is our final movie with him, I think was a really smart decision by the directors and the writers, and just handled so brilliantly by Daniel Craig, who turns in just a really, really 3D performance. And he's been great as Bond since the beginning. I think Casino Royale is fantastic, right? But he definitely stepped it up to end his time as this character. And it is the highlight of the film. It is a movie where James Bond is at the very center of this film. He's the best thing about this film. And they surrounded him by wonderful things that elevate his performance and elevate him and elevate the importance of his story. But really, this is about James Bond. And examining that character, moving that character forward, and doing all of that on the back of Daniel Craig's wonderful performance is truly successful, in my opinion. And I had a wonderful time. I'm definitely conflicted now in my emotions, just because it is always weird to say goodbye to a Bond and to know that there's going to be another one around the corner. There is an emotional reality of that, and the movie, has an emotional ending. And so, we're moving into the next phase of the 007 story, and we'll have to wait and see who the next Bond is. I'm sure they'll give it a couple years before they announce it, but I could wait longer right now. I think Daniel Craig really had a swan song that will be remembered. I think there will be, honestly, at this point, I think it'll be very hard to follow this up. I think that there are some, bad notes in his tenure, and that's kind of universal. I feel like the love of his movies is fairly consistent among a majority of people, but I think that the highs of Casino Royale, Skyfall, and this movie are high enough that it will be very difficult to be Bond after this. And I think that the next actor should be given a little bit more time. Cast him in 2025, film the movie 2026, give us late 2020s, because Daniel Craig's performance is going to be remembered and is going to hang over that next Bond for a while right now. As it should. That's how you want to go out. You want to go out with the movie that goes, that was great. And I think this movie was great. I really do. The casting was great. Christoph Waltz's reappearance as Blofeld was just fantastic. Ralph Fiennes as M was really good. Billy Magnussen showed up, which was weird. I did not expect to see him. He's in everything lately. He was in Aladdin, right? And the assassin show on HBO, Barry. Yeah, he's in Barry. Billy Magnussen is just popping up everywhere, and I'm just digging it. That dude is very funny, and he's great in this movie. Really, the cast is so solid, and there weren't any weak links, but really, really noticeable how much Lashana Lynch and Anna de Armas stood out in the film, and I hope we get to see more of those characters, because it kind of feels like if they want to do another James Bond, they're going to have to reboot now. Continuing this world and just having a new James Bond, I don't know if you could do it. I think you have to reboot, and so it'll be interesting to see what comes next. I know I said I was going to talk spoilers, but it's tough if you want to hear spoilers, stick around after I do the goodbyes here. But for those of you who haven't seen the movie yet, go see it in theaters. It's pretty fantastic. Go see it on the big screen. The action sequences are very much worth the big screen. I didn't really talk about them much, but they are well choreographed and a lot of fun. A lot of work went into this movie very clearly, and it was work that was well spent, in my opinion. If you like this video, like and subscribe to the channel. If you don't, hit the dislike button, because that's what it's there for. And you can leave mean comments down below, because the algorithm god is hungry and we must feed her. You can follow me over at Twitch if you want to see me play some video games. I'm over at twitch.tv/nerdynightly. And as always, y'all, my name's Nerdy. Do something nerdy tonight. Bye. Unless you want to hear about spoilers. Spoiler time. Spoiler talk. All right, let's do this. Let's do this. Or if you this might be like days later for you. You might have like saved this moment in the video and been like, I'm going to go watch the movie. Then I'm going to come back and I'm going to press play as soon as I get home. Or maybe you're watching this on your phone in the car after you've left the theater. What's up? You're probably sad. James Bond is dead. That's a thing. So they killed Bond. Like on screen. It's crazy. I'm not gonna like go through the plot. You've seen the movie, you know what the plot is. The plot isn't complicated. I will say I wish I knew what Lucifer's plan was once they get to the point where they're like, he's kind of had his revenge, right? And then it gets complicated because he's just gonna start killing millions of people, and I didn't understand why. And I don't think the movie did a good enough job explaining the why of that. But they did the smart thing of having Madeline be connected to Lucifer so that Bond had a reason to keep going in the fight and Lucifer had a reason to keep going in the fight. Why everyone else is still in the fight? I don't know. Plot. You know what I mean? It's plot. Millions of people are going to die. Why? I don't know. Same old, same old. But they killed Bond on screen. We watched him die, and it was very sad. Like, really sad, right? And I was really taken aback by the moment. Because I knew he was going to die. The moment you find out that his face is scratched and he can never see Madeline again, it just doesn't make sense for them to keep him alive. Because that's so much worse. Like, I'm going to go live on an island by myself because if I touch someone who touches someone who touches someone who touches someone who touches you, you die. So I have to, like, if he had gotten off the island, he would have had to isolate forever, which is awful. And so it's almost better what they did, right? Given the circumstances, it is the better outcome for him to be dead than to be alone forever, unable to see anyone. And yet I still am sad because I just wanted Bond to have his lady and his daughter, and to be, also he has a daughter. Like, I just wanted him to, I wanted it to end happy, but like the tragedy of these characters is that James Bond can never end happy, right? Because there will always be another mission that he should go on. The more responsible thing for him to do in his future will always be to go on the mission because the world needs saving and he's the guy who can do it. And so it was really, it was emotional to watch him die. It was a slightly easier knowing that I really liked Lashana Lynch, and the character of Nomi was so solid that I was like, oh yeah, I can see him dying knowing that the 007 brand, not brand, but the 007 legacy and the world by virtue of that legacy is safe because Lashana Lynch will handle it. Because they trust each other by the end of the movie. And I think it was smart for them not to know each other at the beginning. I think it was smart for them not to trust each other because the payoff of them slowly getting there, very slowly and gingerly getting there, I thought was really well done. But to see Bond die, to see Blofeld die, to see Felix Leiter die, like, they really said goodbye to the Daniel Craig years of James Bond by killing off everything about the Daniel Craig years of James Bond. And that's okay. That's okay, right? But it was weird. And I think it was the right call. They've never killed the Bond before at the end of their run, right? Pierce Brosnan's Bond didn't die, and then we got Daniel Craig. They've never done this before, but it felt like the right choice for Daniel Craig's Bond. It felt like the thing that we should do. This Bond has told a more grounded, more real story of the life of James Bond than I think any of the previous ones had. There was a lot of reality here, despite, the fantasticalness of the plots and the fantasticalness of the cars and the EMP watch that only shorts out certain kinds of electronics, but not others, whatever. That was a great death, by the way. The killing him with his own eye, fantastic. But it felt right for this to be the Bond that gets to die. And I'm not going to lie, y'all, that I feel like they should just stop making Bond. We've got 25 movies. I know they're going to because they want to make money, but like, it's kind of the right ending, right? It's kind of the perfect ending. Daniel Craig, the James Bond whose movies are all about his love for women. And not love for philandering and for fooling around with women. The movies that are about real love. His love for Vesper was real love. And his love for Madeline is real love. The kind of love that James Bond never used to be able to have. But the kind of love that is at the center of Daniel Craig's tenure as Bond. The fact that it ends on love. On hope. On a daughter. I think is really powerful. And I think is really strong. And I appreciated that about this take on Bond. I think that ending this movie with him dying because of love. Not in a hail of bullets. Not, not with machismo. But just talking to the woman he loved, letting her know that he knows. And getting to hear Bond say, I love you. It's a powerful ending, man. Emotional, powerful ending to this 5-movie franchise that Daniel Craig has really steered the ship on and done a fantastic job of it. And I'm going to miss it. I'm going to miss him. I'm not going to miss the tabloidness of the way it's talked about outside of the movies, but I will miss the movies themselves because they're pretty great. And I think Daniel Craig really left his stamp on this character, and James Bond will never be the same after this. It's funny because I remember talking to my dad when Daniel Craig got cast, and my dad and I were both like, he's too blonde. Daniel Craig was too blonde to be Bond in my mind. I didn't like it. Didn't like the casting, and now here I am thinking he nailed it. He just crushed it. And even in the 2 movies I don't love as much, right? Spectre and Quantum of Solace, his performance in those movies is still just fantastic. I think both those films just get bogged down in a little bit too much plot and a little lack of focus, right? But Daniel Craig was never the problem. And he really, really wasn't the problem in this one. The only problem is he's dead now. So raise a glass. And yeah, thanks for watching.